Show and go with Taylor Davis. This is the end of the week, and we've got the best prospect in baseball, Gunnar Henderson with the Baltimore Orioles, MLB Pipeline's #1 overall prospect and former alt-site teammate of Taylor Davis. Is that teammate? Like, were you technically teammates? Were you guys opponents all the time, Taylor? What was the deal there?
No, I'd say we were more teammates than not. Like, we were in the same dugout, so I would call us teammates.
Gunnar, appreciate you hopping on, man. What are your first impressions of like savvy, wily vet Taylor Davis at the 2020 alt site?
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun. It was him and Adley kind of had a relationship already before I got there. So then I got acclimated to him real quick, and it was funny, always cracking jokes. So yeah, it was really fun.
Love it. Hey, Taylor has like this great, I don't know, almost revelation type story about you, right? Where like it almost you figured it out. And Taylor, I want you to recount that, and then I want Gunnar's perspective on that whole thing.
I just remember, talking to Adley and because Adley knew you were coming before I did, and I remember talking to Fuller, and like the first 2 weeks, like you struggled those first 2 weeks. And I remember looking at Fuller and going, dude, like, I don't know if I've ever even told you this, but like, I remember looking at Fuller and Adley, and I'm like, guys, like, we're going to find out like what kind of person he is. We're going to find out if he's going to shut down or if he's going to like man up. And dude, like, I tell everybody, like, I knew from that moment, like those last 2 weeks at Altsite, like, was a joke. And the fact that, 18 months prior, you were hitting high school pitching in Alabama, and now you're hitting against major league pitching, and like, you made those adjustments. And like the crazy thing, is like at that alt site, like, dude, we had an hour in the cage every day. So like, it wasn't even like you could go sit in the cage all night, like a normal season you would, and really impressive, really cool. Said a lot about you as a person, but yeah, man, that was fun to watch. Just like watch this kid, bro, you were a baby watching this baby just go do this against big leaguers. It was cool.
Gunnar, what do you remember of that, alt site experience? Like, did you feel like there was a sink or swim moment there for you?
Not necessarily, because like you said, I mean, I think I was 18 at the time. Yeah, 18, maybe freshly turned 19. And yeah, I mean, when I first got there, I mean, that was the first time that I've seen that caliber of pitching. I mean, in the GCL, I mean, you just see guys that throw hard but have no earthly idea where it's going.
Right.
And yeah, so I got there. My first at bat was, I'm pretty sure saw 3 pitches. It was, and I know the last one was like 92 mile-an-hour changeup. And yeah, I was like, well, welcome to it. And yeah, so I struggled for a week or two, and then I felt like I finally was able to settle down and just got a lot of good work in the cage and worked really hard on all that type of stuff, and was able to have some success towards the end of it. So I felt like that was the biggest help to my development in all of pro ball, because I mean, I got to face that at, like I said, 18, 19 years old. And then when I got to AA and AAA, I was able to have the confidence of, hey, I already know I can hit it. And then when I got to the big league, same thing. Just I know I can hit it. I mean, I've hit off big leaguers off our own team. So
did you go to Instructs with Adley after the alt site? So like, how easy was Instructs? Like, no offense to those guys, but like, Instructs had to be easy after seeing those, like, the big league arms.
Yeah, after I got there to Instructs, I was swinging at the time. Funny story, I was swinging a 33.5 30, and I think I don't know what it was. I either wasn't hitting it very hard or wasn't hitting very good or something. And then I had this bat in my truck. It's been in my truck since all of alt site, all the way through about halfway through Instructs, and I picked it up, and I wasn't even supposed to get it. It was a 34-inch bat, but on the bat it had 33.5, 30.5. But I held it up to my bats that I knew were 3.5s, and it was like an inch or like half an inch bigger. And I'm like, well, what the heck? Why do I have this? So one day I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to use it. And I went and used it, and I just started going off, and I've used that same bat ever since. Or not the same bat, but same model.
That's like the lightning bolt. What was that movie called? The Natural.
Yeah, literally.
So, like, it could have been the bat, but also it could have been the confidence that you got from the alt site. Like, what did that do for Gunnar Henderson, the player, in terms of your confidence level going into your first full season of minor league ball? Because obviously you come out after technically a year without like real in-game competition that's logged, and you're ripping 850 OPS out.
Yeah, I mean, the going into low A, I felt like I had a lot of confidence going in because, I mean, like I said, I just got done with alt site and had a good, successful last half of it, and then Instructs played really well to the end. And yeah, I mean, just going into that year, I didn't really know what to expect because, I mean, I played higher than the GCL, so got off to a good start, and then was able to get moved up relatively quick. And then I hit a 0 for 31 stretch as soon as I got up to Aberdeen. Didn't get a hit for the first 2 weeks, and that was I would say the outside of the alt site, probably the biggest thing for my development is just learning how to go through that, because it seemed like each and every day I was trying to change something one way or another, trying to find the one hit wonder change in a sense. So just being able to go through that and have that experience for this past year, to where I felt like anytime I did have a little bit of a skid going on, I didn't change anything. And I didn't watch a single bit of video outside of maybe like a few home run videos. But I did no critiquing, just went up to the box and I was like, whatever my body's feeling today is how it's going to be. So I didn't go up there and try to change something or feel a certain thing. Just went up there and tried to be myself and compete.
I've talked about how important it is in the past. We've talked in the past couple of podcasts about how important it is to go through adversity in the minor leagues, because like the reality is it's not if you're going to go through adversity, it's what's going to happen when you go through adversity. And it's terrifying if the first time you do that is in the big leagues, because the big leagues is scary as it is. So like the fact that you went through that in the minor leagues and you were able to overcome that, I'm sure that process was slightly easier having that happen in high A rather than in Yankee Stadium. But that's funny. That's funny you said that, because we've literally talked about that like 2 times in a row.
Yeah.
So you have this, really good 2021. You get rid of that 0 for 31 stretch, and then 2022 is a different animal, and that's the one that shoots you up to the top of prospect boards, gets you to your major league debut, which is the most important thing. I mean, your OPS jumped 120 points. Like, you were a 950 guy this past year. What clicked, or like what changed in that offseason going into 22? Anything?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, eliminate that 0 for 31, and I'm sure a lot of numbers changed from the year before. But like you said, we got to go through it to learn from it. But I did the year before. I had a lot of swing and miss, or just fouling off pitches at top half of the zone. So went to when we got to spring training in 22. We got some of those foam, just regular light foam balls, and they would exaggerate like the hoppiness of a fastball. TD would know exactly what I'm talking about, and it just over exaggerated it, and that cleaned up my swing. It helped me hit that top half of the zone, and once I finally honed in on that, I felt like my swing, it flattened out a lot more. I was able to cover whatever I was looking for, low, in, away, up and away, whichever. And I do that even to this day. I try to do it almost every day.
I love those foam balls for one, they do like, it's the best pitch you'll ever see, right? Like, it's the best fastball you're ever going to see. But the other reason I love them is because you can hit for hours. Like, you're not getting crushed. Your hand, like, you hit a ball, you're not getting jammed. You're not hitting the ball off the end. You're not breaking a bat. So like, dude, you can hit those balls for so long. I love that's been a great part that's been added to the development. Driveline makes a set, and then there's some other ones too. There's a couple other companies that make them. But you just put them in a normal machine. If you have different machines, you can, but it's so beneficial.
So explain this to me. Explain this to me, because obviously, like, from a pitching perspective, we know like weighted balls, right? Those guys go through weighted ball training. What are these foam balls? What do you see?
They're just like, imagine, like the old dimple balls that you used to hit with like at batting cages.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Take that, make it much lighter, like very, very light, and put seams on it. Take the dimples off, so it looks like a baseball. And basically, when you put it in a machine, it gives it the ability to spin more. So you can spin better breaking balls. You can spin better fastballs. Some are weighted slightly different to help with that. But like, they're just very light. So they replicate pitches better. It's like facing Jacob deGrom every single day without being worried about, like I said, like breaking your bat and your hands killing you. One of the things that I heard Ryan Fuller and Anthony Villa talk about, like when we were there, that at the alt site, they were the two hitting guys who were obviously Ryan Fuller's the hitting coach in Baltimore and Villa's the hitting coordinator for the minor leagues on the Baltimore side. But one of the things they talked about was like, when you train, you should be training to where you're doing two things. You're not getting crushed every single time you take a swing, and you're not beating you shouldn't be succeeding every single swing. If you're succeeding every single swing in your work, it's too easy. You need to get harder. Same thing can be said about if you're getting crushed every swing, like if it's too hard and you're not hitting every ball. So like, I remember them talking about 75, 80%. Like if you're succeeding 75, 80%, that's like a good thing. And like these balls give you the ability to go like to the top, go where it's harder, and then come back down. Like we can find that a little bit easier. Like you said, you can over exaggerate and go, hey, like I took 30 swings. They weren't great swings, but let's just take it down a notch. Let's figure out where that is and then go back up there. And I think it makes training a lot easier.
Interesting. Yeah. And like, obviously the name of the game now for like the baseline good modern pitcher is high spin fastball. Gunnar, do you feel like that, and doing that every day now helps you deal with high spin, high velo guys, which I'm sure you saw all the time in the upper minors. And of course, you're going to see it every single night in Major League Baseball.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like for me, the balls, they help my swing. But yeah, we do crank up the machine a little bit, and we'll use the actual dimple balls because they're a little bit heavier, so they can be shot a little bit faster and not be going everywhere. Because sometimes the lighter foam balls, they'll get worn down and they'll just go everywhere. So I only use it for pretty much the hop, and it's at like a certain speed, so it's not like just cranked up. But I'll use the dimple balls. That's what I'll hit for higher velo guys. But yeah, I mean, I feel like my biggest thing is I mainly use the really hoppy heaters. That's what I feel like irons out my swing, if you will. So that's what, if I'm ever not feeling something or I'm not feeling good at something, that's what I'll usually do to just iron it out. And if I'm squaring those up with good launch angle, then I know my swing's in a good place.
You like find your baseline. I've always talked about like at least for me, like I knew I was in trouble when I was out in front of breaking balls and getting beat by heaters. If I was on time with one or the other, I didn't panic. It was like, okay, let's make that adjustment. But if I was like, hey, I'm getting beat by fastballs, I'm early on breaking balls, it was always, let's go to the best fastball I can get. Let's get on time with that. Let's figure that out. And then my body will figure out the rest. Like we'll figure out how to react the other way.
Yeah.
So for the hitters that are listening to this and the hitting nerds that are listening to this, like walk me through some of your cues in your swing. Like how has your swing changed and what are you thinking about when like, hey, something feels off? Is it with the back hip? Is it with the hands? What's going on there?
Honestly, last year, like that's what I tried to avoid. Like, because in 21, I would sit there and go down rabbit holes of watching video and thinking, oh, should my hands be here, this place? Should my legs be spread this far apart? And it would just keep getting more and more. And I felt like the more I dove into it, the more things I wanted to change. And this past year, the only one thing that I pretty much made sure I did every time was just have my hands like moving. If it's like a little tiny circle moving, just going back and forth. And whenever I stepped into the box, whichever way my body felt comfortable, that was how wide my legs were. Just I step in. If I feel comfortable at that point, then that's where I am.
I've said in the past, like I believe that very few people in any sport, but especially in baseball, know what they actually do during their swing. Most people know the thoughts that get them to create something. So like, that's why, knowing your swing is so important. I always like the quote that always led me to this was Albert Pujols. So I grew up in Jupiter. And so Albert Pujols, when he was young, when he was younger in the big leagues, I was young. And I remember like they had an interview with him and they were like, hey, how are you doing this? His first couple of years in the big leagues, it was like 330 with 30. And his response was, I'm no more talented than anybody in this game, but I know my swing better than anybody else knows their own swing. Like he knew what thoughts made him do certain actions. And so when you know that, you don't have to go worry about your mechanical adjustments. You go, okay, like what feels off? Okay, let's make this feel different. Because I tell guys all the time, like when I was going my best, I thought that I was doing a very little hand movement and a very little step. And like the reality was, if I went and watched video, that wasn't the case. I had a big leg kick and I had a lot of hand motion, but that's not what I felt like I was doing. So if I would go watch video, I'd go, gosh, dang it, dude. Like I got to fix all types of stuff. When in reality, I didn't, right? I just needed to fix that thought to get me back to my baseline.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm curious who you grew up like watching and falling in love with, because you're from Selma, Alabama, which is west of Montgomery. So like you can go see, double A. They're now Tampa's double A, but like you're south of Birmingham. Atlanta is probably the closest major market. Were you watching like a certain guy, whether it was a Brave on local TV or like you were getting down the YouTube rabbit hole growing up?
Honestly, not too much. I mean, my favorite player growing up was actually Randy Johnson until Corey Seager came through, and then that's kind of who I resembled. So I kind of enjoyed watching him. But I mean, I feel like we kind of have similar movements outside of the toe tap. I mean, we're both pretty stationary with the hands and just go straight to the ball. So I feel like if there was somebody, I felt like that'd be the closest comp. But I honestly didn't watch too much video and try to like become that exact person. My dad was pretty much my hitting coach growing up because we didn't have much in Selma. So it's usually hitting in our garage or going to the school and he would throw us BP or some of that nature. So yeah, I mean, not really too much growing up, just I guess became my own self in a sense.
I mean, it showed too. Like if you go watch video of you even at the alt site, like you had a unique swing. You had a unique setup. Like you said, you were very stationary, but with big power, which can be unique. Like, and I think that it's funny you say you didn't really watch anybody because like it looked like you were trying to be the best you every single time you went out there, and like that's how you went after it, and that's how you attacked the day, and that makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
Back to baseball in a moment, but you were a hooper in high school, huh? 17 and 11 boards, did I see? At 6'2", 11 boards a game. What's the comp there?
I don't watch too much basketball to really know a good comp. That was just a really, really fun year for
Did you play anywhere?
myself. There was some interest, but I committed to Auburn and like going into 10th grade. So, and that was baseball was always my first love. So I was like, nah, I'm not going to be able to do it anyway. So there's
Did you really walked off Auburn?
I feel like if I put the time and effort into basketball that I did baseball, I feel like I honestly could have got a scholarship, but yeah, I mean, I would practice like a few months leading up until the season, but if I practice year round like I did baseball, then I feel like I pretty good.
Were you like a stretch guy? Could you shoot from distance, or were you just like, I'm gonna go bang inside?
Yeah, no, I could shoot, and then whenever they started to get out, then I would usually drive and I would dish it off, or I could even dunk it. So,
oh man, I love it. Hey, so you mentioned before we started recording that you've got a loaded house of talent in Sarasota right now. You're living with Adley, with Colton Cowser, and with Kyle Stowers. It takes me to the Orioles thought, like, you guys are going to be so good so soon. And that core of bats is absolutely insane. And let's start with your roommates. Like that core moving forward, how good can you guys be offensively like this year?
I mean, I feel like we could be contenders this year. I mean, I've seen each and every one of them hit, and just the way that just what they know about the game and how they go about certain pitchers, and just I'm able to learn from them, and I try and give them some advice if they need it, but usually I'm having to learn from them because they have a little bit more experience than I do. And yeah, I mean, like it's from last year to this year, just watching in spring training is going to be really special here. I'm really looking forward to seeing how far we can go.
Yeah, one cool thing that like in it, you saw it in the alt site, and I didn't see all those guys, but like with Adley, with you, with some of those guys, with McKenna, Mountcastle, like, I think the best atmospheres in baseball, like the best dugouts, are not necessarily where the most learning happens. It's where there's conversation and like you guys talk. But like, when I first signed in 2011, it was like a forced thing, right? Like coaches were in the dugouts like, hey, talk about baseball. Like, we're only talking about baseball. You guys want to talk about baseball. You guys want to talk about what's happening. And that leads to these great conversations, and it leads to learning. And it's a really cool thing for a group of young guys. That's really important, right? Because if you had a group of individuals that were more focused on just, really bettering themselves and were more in the dugout by themselves doing this and that, like, yeah, you guys could probably be good, but you wouldn't necessarily be getting better. And I think that's the scary part about you guys is like, not only are you young and talented, but there's room to grow. And I think that it's going to be it's exciting to watch you guys and get to watch like day in and day out what you guys can do.
Yeah, it's been a big testament, I feel like, to the scouting the Orioles have, because it seems like everybody that we've gotten recently, everybody's a good dude. Like, outside of a great baseball player, you don't run into guys that are stuck up and just act like they're the best thing to ever come. So it's been really awesome and really fun clubhouse to be around.
Guy they got most recently, Jackson Holiday, 1-1 last year. He obviously, went viral for that double in his first, MLB quote unquote plate appearance in spring training. You probably been around Jackson for a little bit this spring. What's that dude like? Like, where's the talent level there?
Yeah, he's a great dude. And even like the hitting coaches, they've come up and said they see a younger, or I mean, I'm still young, but they see myself as I was 19 2 years ago. So it's really cool. And I feel like I can provide him with a lot of experience of what he'll go through and what he needs to expect if he goes through like a struggle or something. So I like being able to give him that type of experience because, I mean, I'm glad I went through it, but I hope he doesn't have to go through it. But I know everybody will at some point. So to be able to provide that experience and just knowledge of what to expect is, I'm really happy to be able to do that.
You guys have like this deep system, and there's some serious top heavy talent, right? You, Adley, G-Rod, I'm thinking about Cowser too. Who are some of the guys that are a little bit more under the radar that just kind of wow you with what they do at the ballpark?
Yeah, I mean, Joey Ortiz, he's been one of my best friends going through the system, and just to be able to watch him in his glove, and now that the hitting is off the charts, I mean, he's going to be a special player. He's already a special player. Just whenever he gets his chance, I know he's going to show out and just show everybody what he's got.
Got you, man. Hey, you are the number one prospect in baseball, according to MLB Pipeline, and that is as elite a fraternity as you can find in baseball. Like, I mean, off the top, Adley, Trout, Shohei, Vladdy, Byron Buxton twice. Like, when you first found out that you were the number one prospect in the game, where was your head?
I mean, I feel like growing up, my parents always instilled in me to never like let anything get to your head and just make you, or I guess, be cocky in a sense. I mean, just put it like that. But I mean, yeah, it was a real honor to be able to be the number one prospect, but nothing means anything unless you go out there and prove it. So that's what I feel like I've used my mindset each and every day, is to just go out there and work hard, and it'll all work out the way it's supposed to. So, I mean, yeah, it's really cool, but I mean, once again, I'm going to go out there and work hard each and every day.
You want to win Game 7. You want to win the MVP.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Prospect sick. And I'll tell you this, like, when you got to the outside, I remember, before you got on, I was telling Jack, I'm like, yeah, man, this guy's good old country boy, dude. Like, he's going to be great to have on here. And like, I remember when you got to the outside, and like, I was talking to Adley, and we were, whatever. And then Adley at some point, goes, this guy had like a pretty big signing bonus, right? I was like, come on, dude, no way. And like, sure enough, like, we wouldn't look, and yeah, you got some money out of high school, and that's really cool. But like, you can tell that's how you are. And it's not surprising to me that that answer you just gave is what came out of your mouth, because I do really think that another thing that's cool about a lot of you guys, about Adley, about you, Adley's calling me right now, is that like, you guys have that drive and that want to win Game 7 more than you want to be superstars. And that's what it takes. Like, that's how you win in the big leagues. These teams are filled with superstars, right? Like, you see it all around the country, all around the league. But like, at the end of the day, you got to want that also. Like, you got to want to win. You got to want to, perform like that. And it's like I said, man, it is just cool to see you guys. And I'm biased. I tell him, like, you guys are my buddies, and I got to watch you guys. So like, I'm super biased, but it's a special group of dudes.
Yeah, it is.
winning in Baltimore is something that I think is one of the more underrated things in baseball, because that place, when the baseball is good, is unlike any other ballpark in the game, man. Like, we know that's a beautiful ballpark from the jump, and we know that Orioles fans will show out when the team is good. But when the vibes are as good as they are right now, that's got to be a special place to be, man. Like, what are your first takeaways of just being in Baltimore and like being a Baltimore Oriole on this young and it seems like on the come up team?
Yeah, I mean, when I first got drafted and was able to go and sign, I remember sitting at one of the games and there wasn't a lot of people there because they're still going through the losing seasons. And I remember, I think I said this in another interview, but going through the national anthem and they hit the when everybody says "oh," when I first heard that, it scared me because I like jump. I was like, "What?" I remember telling them I was just looking forward to being able to hear that and to be there for opening day and just have hopefully a entire or sold out stadium and hear that. Oh, that's what I most look forward to, and just hearing that each and every day at the games.
The buy-in is there, man. It's really fun. Hey, so you are always going to be like in step now with Corbin Carroll, it feels like, right? Like, you guys are 1-2 on all these lists, and you guys are both like insanely talented players. And Carroll's kind of following this trend of, committing to the place that took him, and he'll be there for the next 8 years, right? It was 8 years, 111, that pre-arb deal. We're seeing these pre-arb deals get more and more prevalent in baseball, and I'm not asking you if you've like had any dialogue about that or like if you'd be open to dialogue, but what do you feel like that does for a guy like you, or a guy like a top prospect, where the team that drafted you, the team that you have come up with, says, hey, we know you've only played 30 games, but we want you here for the long run?
Yeah, I mean that would be awesome. I mean, I feel like it'd be really cool to play your entire career with the team that you came up with, and hopefully the number would show that they would have the same interest in you as you have in the team, and to be able to spend it with the guys you've spent your whole career with would be awesome. But yeah, I was happy to see it because I got to play with him in high school or the showcase circuit and stuff. So I got to play with him. So I was really happy that he got that, and he'll be able to take care of his family for a really long time.
Yeah, that's awesome. There's obviously a few extension candidates on that team, so it'll be interesting to see how the Orioles handle that, because you guys are, you got a chance to be special for a while, and we'll see if it'll be more like a Chicago Cubs special for a while, or if you guys will be, there for 8 or 10 years. But that core of dudes, man, good Lord, it's cool.
It seems like a fun core of dudes too. And like, obviously I hear about you and Adley from Taylor all the time too. Who like cracks you the hell up?
Oh my Lord, that'd have to be Colton Cowser. He's the clown of the group. He's always cracking jokes, doing something funny. He's always a light mood around the house.
Okay, so he's a big Lego guy. Does he have the Legos set up in the spring house right now?
Yeah, me and him, we got into it last year. We built a lot of like the Star Wars heads, and then right when we left from spring training, we both picked up the big Millennium Falcon and built it over the course of the season. So I'm sure you got to see his built first because I was way ahead of him at the time, and then I got caught up to the big leagues, so I couldn't finish mine, and then he was able to beat me because he was in AAA and built it there, and I just had to leave mine in my truck because I didn't have my truck for about 2 weeks. So yeah,
I bet he would have. I bet he would have traded Instagram posts with you.
yeah. He said it was a good reason why I didn't beat him. So
yeah, I'm sure you were pretty upset.
Was he at Sam Houston State?
What you say?
Did he go to Sam Houston State? Was that him?
He did.
Yeah.
Yes.
My mom went to Sam Houston State.
Really?
Yeah. But
that's awesome. Yeah. We ended up watching the Bearcats play some baseball every now and then at the house. So.
Yeah, that's nice. My mom actually, and my cousin went to school there too. That's wild.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So obviously you're hopping onto the Lego Millennium Falcon grind to get away from the game. What else do you do to get away from the game? Because obviously, like, you're in pressure pack situation after pressure pack situation. How do you get your mind off of baseball?
Yeah, usually me and some of my buddies will end up playing some PlayStation, or like you said, just building some Legos. That's just kind of our therapy for the night. So that's what we do, and it just gets our mind off baseball, and it kind of winds us down to get ready to go to bed and get some sleep for the next day.
Taylor, I know you talk about getting away from the game a little bit, and you're the type that like wants to be around baseball all the time. But what did you do like in little spurts to get away?
It's funny. I got some Legos out here. It's actually funny. But yeah, I've gotten into Legos recently.
There we go.
Honestly, dude, like it's a little different for me now that I got a 3.5-year-old, like getting away from the game for the most part is helping the wife however I can with him and enjoying as much time as I can because we don't get a ton just because we're at the field so much. So enjoying that time. But I will say this, like, we are gone so much, but one cool part about our game is that we're home for 6 months a year. So like the ability to be with my son all day, every day for 6 months a year is really, really cool also. But yeah, Legos have entered my world also, man. They're just like, they're hypnotizing, dude. Like you just go and but then I will say this too, like I'm slightly OCD. So like, I'm not really sitting, like I got to sit down and do it. Like it's tough for me to sit down and not do it. Like, if I'm not going to finish it, I at least have to finish like a main section. There's no way I'm like a half done piece on the table.
Yeah.
Gunnar, last one from me. You're 21 years old. Like when you are home in Alabama, you're probably hanging out with some buddies that are back from college, right? For the summer, you're not there during the summer, but like for Christmas break or something like that. Was there a moment where it hit you like, oh man, I'm an adult now. I got to grow up fast?
Well, I feel like in the game of baseball, it makes you grow up, but at the same time, you get to be a kid because you're playing a kid's game for your job. So I feel like you get the best of both worlds where you have that time to be adult, but yet at the field, you also have that time to still bring out your inner kid. So I feel like that's the beauty of baseball. And that's why I love the sport so much.
Yeah, I think without question, like the time away gets, the fact that you have these 6 months too, like you get to have some sick hobbies in the off season. Like that's one cool part about baseball players is like you see what they do during the winters and like, especially, you don't have a family yet. Like guys that don't have families, they get to travel and they get to, buy a farm and do stuff. Like you get to just have fun, like you're lucky enough that you've made a little bit of money and like you can have some fun in the off season. So I'm sure just, that part of the game, like allowing you to do that has been a blessing for you. And it's definitely a cool part of what I like to see in the off seasons from guys.
Yeah.
We like giving Taylor the floor to end it to just kind of like, wax poetic about the guest, right? And Taylor has nothing but positive things to say about all these dudes. And I've heard so many positive things from Taylor about you, but like Taylor, here's your opportunity to say like what you really admire about Gunnar Henderson and what you've grown to love about this guy.
No, man, I started it by saying that I watched him go through adversity, and watching that made me really trust the instincts that I had of watching him play and understanding that he was going to be a really special player. You're seeing now, like, you've now talked to him and like the level-headedness is there, man. Like, he's got a chance to be as good as anybody I've been around. And that's a really cool thing for me to see. But I got nothing other than the fact that I really want to see you play shortstop every day, man. I know that right now you guys had a shortstop that's really good defensively, but I want to see you at shortstop, man. I think that, I think we're looking at an MVP every year, dude. Like you and Adley, the crazy thing is, like, I think you and Adley are going to compete for the MVP in the AL East more than anybody else in the AL East is. So like, that's the sick part to me is like, I don't know who I'm going to root for. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I'm in trouble. But no, man, I think, and it's a part of your game that doesn't get talked about because you're so talented with the bat. But like, I want to see you at shortstop every day, man.
Yeah, man. That's what I'm looking forward to as well.
Love it. Gunnar Henderson, you're the man. Really appreciate this. And best of luck as you end spring and get into the regular season.
I appreciate it. Thank y'all for having me.
Thanks, man.